Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. You have joined the Axway Open Banking demo. It will be recorded, so if you're not comfortable with that, please drop, and we'll be sending the recording out after. But excited to have you guys here today to see open banking in action. So I have Vincent Belfour with me. He is an expert in all things Axway and our solutions, and I'm going to turn it over to Vincent now to show you guys how this works.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jennifer. All right. So, good day, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. We're here to talk about open banking and specifically how Axway solution can help financial institutions navigate the transformative shift from bespoke interfaces and screen scraping into the world of open banking. So today we're going to cover what open banking is, why it matters, and how your bank can turn it into a strategic advantage. So, open banking isn't just about compliance. It's an opportunity to innovate, attract new partners, and unlock new revenue streams. And I want you to join me at looking at it through that lens as well. So let's dive in. So let's start with a high-level overview of open banking. So open banking is the practice of making consumer financial data portable with the goal of fostering data-driven innovation and increased market competition. Banks around the world are approaching open banking in different ways. Some regions have regulation-driven mandates, while others are taking a market-driven approach. So open banking is at its core powered by APIs, which really come in two main types. There are the open data APIs, which provide general financial data, and the read-write APIs, which allow secure access to consumer financial data. But here's the key takeaway. I'll say again, open banking isn't just about compliance. Banks that make the move to adopt open banking with an innovation mindset can make themselves more attractive to partners, making integration easier and creating new revenue opportunities through partnerships. So going forward, those who treat open banking as a growth strategy rather than a regulatory checkbox will gain a competitive edge. And that's something that I want to keep driving home when we think about open banking and adopting of the Axway solution. Right. So now, how does Axway address this challenge? So the Axway Open Banking is a comprehensive solution that brings open banking, API management, and integration together. So our solution provides an intuitive developer experience, pre-built open banking APIs, and built-in security, identity, and consent management. And it's all built on top of Axway's trusted Amplify API management and Fusion hybrid integration platform. So banks using the Axway Open Banking get a turnkey solution that simplifies integration, accelerates adoption, and opens the door to new revenue generating opportunities. So in order to really understand open banking's impact, we'll do it kind of in a storytelling approach. So let's explore it with these three key personas. We have the bank, of course. So if I say the bank or you, that's what I'm referring to as the bank. The customer, that's the bank's customer. And then the third-party developer. Okay. So each of these personas plays a unique role in the open banking ecosystem, and they each have their own unique requirements. So the bank's customer, well, they want a seamless digital experience, which allows them to maintain control over who has access to their financial data. We have the third-party developers. These are the people who are developing these mobile applications or other financial aggregators, right, that your customers are going to use in order to access their financial data. Well, they need reliable APIs to build out their applications, and they want an intuitive self-service interface to do that, lowering the barrier of entry of adopting the bank's APIs. And the bank itself, well, they're responsible for implementing open banking itself, but doing so in a secure and efficient manner, and which eventually enables the application developer to create these powerful applications. So by understanding these needs, we can create a better open banking experience for everyone. So just kind of quickly here, kind of an example of a simplified data sharing approach, so we can see how all these components might come together. Okay, so if we think about what might happen with an end user interacting with an application that accesses their financial data at a bank, we see the end user can make a request to the app in their bank, and then the app makes a request to the bank on behalf of the user. And this is kind of where open banking starts to kick in, right? In this flow, the open banking will then redirect the user's authentication and authorization. The user will then say, yes, I'm going to provide this consent. This is the consent that I'm going to grant to this application to my financial data. And then once that consent is granted, the bank will retrieve the information and return it to the application for the consumer to use. So again, this is a simplified view, but the idea is that we are building out a process that ensures security, compliance, and really a frictionless developer and customer experience. So to tell my story, we're going to break this down into those personas. So the first thing that we want to look at is the bank's customer. So let's take a closer look at the bank's customer experience. Well, first of all, they want to know who has access to their financial data and for what purpose, because they're concerned about losing control of their data. We don't want that to happen. Now, what should they be able to do? Well, they want to be able to easily register their accounts within these third-party applications, and then manage the access that's been granted, and also view the activity that these applications are generating through by going back to the bank's digital experience, the web page or the interface they're used to using. Let's integrate this whole experience into the bank's digital experience. What do we get as the bank when this happens? Well, we've provided our end users with a method of transparency and control, right? And it increases the customer loyalty of our customers. Okay. So what's an example of what a customer experience could look like? So one great example of open banking in action is a personal finance management app. Right? These apps empower customers to manage their finances with personalized insights. With open banking, banks can create a fuller, richer financial picture, can increase engagement for your customers, and even capitalize on cross-selling opportunities. You can add additional features like budget tracking, goal setting, payment initiation. These drive deeper engagement, and again, these are the opportunities to open up those additional revenue channels. So in order to achieve the view here, we see the bank customer chose to link their selected accounts from their bank to the financial management app. In this case, they link their checking and savings accounts, but not any investment or loan accounts. This is distinctly different from the screen scraping approach, where the app may have access to bank accounts other than checking and savings, because through screen scraping, the app is impersonating the bank customer, not accessing data through APIs, which can control the access and consent that have been granted. So open banking ensures that bank customers maintain full control over their financial data, granting access only to the accounts they choose while maintaining security and privacy, unlike screen scraping, which lacks these safeguards. The next persona we want to look at is our third-party application developer. So now let's kind of shift into this persona. And the idea here is we want to enable innovative financial services and financial experiences. So developers want to create apps to drive their business, and in order to do that, they need connectivity to banking services. To efficiently achieve this goal, they want to prefer to interact with banks who deliver seamless, integrated developer experiences. And those experiences make it effortless to incorporate the bank's financial services into these applications they're building. They also want APIs which meet regulatory expectations, provide customers control over their data, rather that's feeding back into this whole concept of open banking. I mean, I personally wouldn't want to use an app which gave me no control over how it's managing my financial data. So as a developer, I can't really expect my end users to do the same thing. Okay, so I want to offer them that control. In order to do this, they need access to a self-service API marketplace, a marketplace that allows them to easily onboard themselves, learn about the APIs that they're going to use, and again, be fully self-service. So from onboarding to obtaining credentials, to getting everything they need in order to integrate those APIs into their applications quickly. So Axway's open banking solution delivers this as well. So those application developer experiences there. And as the bank, by providing this, we're building a robust open banking API marketplace, and this really results in that smooth onboarding process that our developers are looking for. It really fosters that ecosystem of faster application developer and opening up more partnerships with more applications. Again, feeding back into the idea that we can actually generate more revenue opportunities by adopting something that is standardized. Okay, so that all sounds great, right? So let me break away from the presentation for a second. Let's take a quick look at what the application developers experience could look like through an Axway open banking marketplace. Let me switch screens here. So this is an example of what a marketplace could look like. All right, and this is all the framework for building this out is all part of the Axway solution. So I mentioned complete self-service. Well, we can go all the way from signing in and registering. So if I don't already have an account, right, as a third-party application developer, I can choose to self-onboard. Now we're going to see a lot of fields here. I'm not going to fill all of these out. Some of these are what is required for compliance with open banking, and others are custom fields that the bank can decide that, this is information that we need to collect about anyone who's going to be integrating with our APIs and building them into their applications and putting them in front of our customers. So maybe there are some other things that we want to be able to collect. Okay, so what we see here is fully customizable as part of the solution. But again, fully self-service, people can onboard here. You can allow this process to be fully automated, or even put checks and balances in place so that maybe a human has to come along and start approving things. Yeah, but the choice is yours. So this is what onboarding looks like. Let me just switch screens here for just a second. We're going to show you what it looks like if I am already authenticated. Okay, so here I am as a user. I've already logged in, so my view is a little bit different here. But let's say that I want to start building my application, and I want to see accounts and transactions. That's something that I want to wrap up into my financial planning application. So I can come to the marketplace. Here I can see all the documentation that I need. So this is all prescriptive documentation about how to use these APIs, use cases. As the bank, as the owner of these APIs, why did I put them here? How do I expect you to use them? All right, this is all about lowering the barrier of entry of consuming the API, my open banking APIs. If I want to put any sort of monetization or usage plans here, usage plans don't necessarily need to be monetized. They can be free, but maybe we want to have some control around how these APIs are being used, so we can set up these usage plans as well. I can drill down into the actual resources. These are the APIs. So I can see that I have my FTX core API, right? And this is where I'm going to see all the things like the accounts, right? The get accounts, the get transactions. This is the API that's been provided by FTX. Defined by FTX and provided by Axway Open Banking. So this is what you get as part of the solution. It's here. So as a developer, I can see everything that I need here. If I want to get credentials, that is all built in here. I can request my credentials. I can get them. It will deliver them to me in real time, and I can start using these APIs right away. And the platform even allows me to not only have the real APIs going against real data, but I can set up sandboxes as well. So from a developer perspective, maybe I want to get credentials and start playing around with sandbox APIs. The functionality to do that is all here. Okay, so that's kind of the developer experience. Where I come in, find the APIs that I need, use the documentation, learn about them, get my credentials, and immediately start using them and testing in my application. So within a matter of minutes, I can go all the way from the idea of, hey, I need these APIs to build my application, to self-onboarding, to learning, getting credentials, and to start using them. So that's an example of what we can provide as part of the developer experience for Axway Open Banking. So having covered that persona, let's jump back into what it would look like from the bank's perspective. Okay, so finally, this is the so here, the main concern of the banks is data security, right? Ease of integration, and providing that robust customer experience. So, of course, to the banks and customers, but we talked about providing a consumable interface to our application developers. Now, the banks also need to comply with any evolving regulations, as well as identify innovative approaches for opening these additional revenue channels. So how can I once I've implemented something like open banking and I've providing these normalized interfaces that everybody can easily understand, how can I use those to identify new opportunities? Okay. So open banking really holds the key to doing that, right? And specifically, Axway Open Banking simplifies core banking integration by providing the FDX industry standard APIs, as well as that self-service API marketplace. And it also includes the consent management and links into integrating with your security backends. Okay, so we're providing all of that. What do we get from the bank's perspective when all of this happens? Well, we're providing that secure, compliant access to our customers' financial data, and opening the doors to new partnerships. So by making integration easier, the bank really becomes a preferred partner for fintechs. Again, expanding our opportunities. So in the last persona, we saw what Open Banking Marketplace could look like when we took on the role of an application developer. Now let's take a different look, kind of from the inside, and see how actually open banking enables the banks to easily create these integrations, expose their core banking services, expose them as the standardized FDX APIs, and doing so in doing it while providing the compliance and security that their customers expect. Okay. So with that, let's jump back into the solution here, but we're going to take a different view. We're going to see what it looks like from the perspective of the bank. Okay, so what we're seeing here is the integration layer for Axway Open Banking. As I mentioned, it is built on top of our integration platform. And if I look, it is project-based. So the project we want to look at here today is going to be my FDX core API. Okay. Remember in the developer experience, we saw that API in the marketplace. Well, this is where it came from. It's right here. We got it by importing the FDX provided API into the integration platform. And again, from a kind of a development point of view, we're now seeing that FDX API interface. We can put other security methods in front of it and define how we want it to be presented to our end users. So this is really kind of what's driving that visualization that we saw in the marketplace. Now, what steps do we need to take here? Okay, so when someone starts consuming that API, there are all the endpoints that they can call. Well, one of them could be get accounts. Okay, so what do we want to happen when someone calls the account endpoint on this API? Well, we can link an integration. So the integration is the logic that we are going to execute when that endpoint is called. Okay, so you can see the platform was built out for me, kind of the beginning and the end of an integration here. I have the entry point that is the endpoint on my API, and all of the technical response types and everything that have been defined as part of the FDX API specification. Now inside of here, we're going to put our logic. Now I could have inlined all the logic here, but instead I've built it out as a reusable service, which means I can kind of I can wrap this logic into other API endpoints if I want to. So that was a design decision on my part to make things a little bit more portable. So in order to see what's going on, let's drill into this service. Okay. Now the service is where we can start building out the logic of what is going to happen when someone executes or someone invokes this endpoint on my FDX API. Well, I can, and this is a no code, very much no code, but can be low code interface. Every time there are one of these little plus buttons here, I can add another one of these steps. So there are steps for mapping connections to other external services or internal APIs or internal services. The logic that you need in order to do all that connectivity is provided here within the platform. That's a little bit beyond the scope of what we're talking about today, but suffice to say that there is no coding involved. It's merely a matter of configuration. Okay. So we think of what do we need to do when we start building these out? Well, the first thing I need to do is kind of grab that information that came off of the FDX defined interface, because some of the things that I need to start doing is taking that data and transforming it into whatever my existing my existing, in this case, get accounts API or get account service is expecting some sort of data, some sort of in a defined format. I don't want to force you to have to change your existing APIs or your existing services, but rather let's adapt them to become part of this FDX API ecosystem. Okay. So I'm going to, first thing I'm going to do is kind of get some information off of the wire, off of that request. JWT tokens come in, so we're going to parse that and make sure that they are valid. Right. If we don't see valid information, I'll inject some logic here, right? If it is not valid, then I'll just exit this, return an appropriate error. If we do pass the JWT validation, the next thing that we want to do here, and again, this is kind of part of the bank's operation of the implementation of FDX, is remember that application is coming in, or sorry, the request is coming in via a partner provided application. So we want to validate that it really is coming in through the channels that we expect, and it has all the right authentication and identification along with it. Okay, so here we just inline another service. So I built out a service that knows how to validate partners. Okay, we'll execute that, make sure that whatever's coming in again across that wire is valid for the partner that owns the application. And then finally, the next thing we want to do is check the consent. Again, that request is coming across the wire with the JWT token, so we're going to use all that information to make sure that we are providing the next API call is going to be done within the context of the consent that our end user granted to the application. Again, this is something that the Axway Open Banking solution provides. Okay, that consent management is there. Once we've done that, we'll pick all the proper fields off of that request to consent. And then finally, we are going to call the core banking service. So this is your existing banking services, whether you're getting it from some financial package that you've implemented, or you've written your own custom APIs to do the work, custom services to do the work for you. So we've done all the upfront work here as part of open banking, providing the security, the compliance, the checking. Before we get to the point of calling that service, we've mapped all the data into a format that service is going to expect, so it can make the call. Same call it ever did. The idea is we don't want to have to change the service. Okay. Once we've made that call, same as we ever did, we're just going to do some checking on it to make sure that we get a valid response. If we do, we're just going to take the response from your service and we're going to map it back into the data model that FDX provides, because that's the data model that application is expecting. It made an FDX call, it's going to expect an FDX response. So we're going to take the time to map that back into that format. If we take a look at one of these maps, oh, that was a bad one. Let me grab the first one. We can see that we can even inject logic along the wire here. Okay, so I said this is a no-code type interface. So if I need to not just do one-to-one mappings, sometimes I can just drag one field into another because they're one-to-one. But sometimes I need to do logic along the wire. Maybe I need to do some sort of transformation of the data as it came from the FDX API to make it consumable in my application. So it is an exercise in dragging and dropping, but maybe sometimes we need to do some logic on that. So FDX has a field called account IDs, but maybe our application is expecting it to be, here it's on one side it's a string, but on the other side we expect it to be an array. Okay, so we can add all of this function logic along the wire, so we don't have to drop down into doing any actual code. It's all provided for us here as part of the solution. Okay, so that's how you build out that's how you build out an open banking solution using this integration platform to provide the FDX facade, all of the security, the compliance that it expects, invoke your core banking services, and then return that FDX response. The last thing that I want to show you before we leave the platform here for the day is we do provide a compliance dashboard, a consent management dashboard. So here we can see all of the consents that our users have granted to the application. So we can see them, we can control them, we can see what they're doing. So it takes away that mystery of, I have this application that's making calls on behalf of the user and accessing financial data. So if we think of something like some of the current mobile financial aggregation or mobile payment platforms that integrate with the bank, as the bank, we don't always have clear insight into who's making that call or what they're doing. Okay, but by wrapping these the compliance and the consent management around it, we do get that fine-grained visualization into who's doing what and what they're accessing. So we can see that here, and we can suspend it, we can remove it if we have to, but we can manage the consent that has been granted and how it's being used. Okay. So with that, let's recap. Okay. So again, open banking, it's not just about meeting regulatory requirements. It's a strategic opportunity for banks to innovate, attract partners, and again, open those new revenue channels. Axway Open Banking brings API management, integration, and security together in a turnkey solution. We saw how all those layer together using the existing Axway solutions. And this really helps banks accelerate their open banking journey. So by adopting open banking as a growth strategy, banks can enhance customer experiences, increase engagement, and become a central player in this evolving financial ecosystem. So the time to act is now. Banks that embrace open banking today will be the leaders of tomorrow. So that's the story. So thank you very much for taking the time to join me today. And I trust you now have a clear picture of the value delivered by Axway's open banking solution. And with that, I thank you for the time, and that's the end of today's session.